Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Barely Filtered. This is a solo episode, what I have learned from the data that happens to be your favorite. Also, my favorite, sometimes a little more work for me, a little more preparation, and a little more organization of my brain that needs to happen in order to make sense to you guys for hopefully 30 minutes, not like an hour. Sometimes I get a little overboard. So basically, I'm just going to catch you up with what's been going on with my life. There's been some ketamine, some plant medicine in Costa Rica. I went on a little peyote pilgrimage, if you will, and I went on a yoga retreat, ate vegan food for a week, which ended up being a great diet because I don't like vegan food at all. So I got a little detox happening there. And I met a guy. I know, shocking, right? Me? Who, me? And I really, really like this guy. But it has prompted some real reflection in me because I've never considered myself to be a jealous person. Like, you guys know I'm honest. I'm a lot of things. Jealousy it has not been one of them. I never went through my ex-husband's phone once in the 9 years that we were together. I feel grateful that I am secure in that way. But this guy that I like has made me realize that I have some big feelings around, past relationships. He was in a very long relationship that ended pretty recently. And I guess the questions that I'm grappling with have to do with how not to project big emotions onto other people. I think I'm trying to feel the emotions, but not to really identify with them because it's illogical to be jealous of somebody that is an ex that is in your partner's past. We're going to get back to that. We're going to back up about, 4 weeks ago. So 4 weeks ago, I started doing ketamine therapy, and I told you guys about that. I did 3 sessions with an amazing therapist, Dr. Dow, who I just love, and this other medical doctor. And the reason why I got into ketamine and why it was interesting to me was, one, because I had relapsed on vaping, and I had heard that ketamine was a good way to kind of reprogram and restart your brain. And I feel like a lot of people who have ADHD like I do, and people who just have trauma, which I feel like is all of us, big T, small t, you can get into these patterns of kind of cyclical behavior where you're either recreating similar versions of the same situation in your life over and over again, or you have patterns of thinking that you feel like are not conducive to your growth and maybe are holding you back. And I feel like I kind of have both of those. Like I definitely have. It's been 2 years where I've been single now, and I can't really deny that a lot of these situations that I've been manifesting for myself in my life are just like the same situation. And also just the vaping thing, how it's kind of like come in and out of my life. I just felt like I needed a reset. So I started doing ketamine therapy. I did 3 sessions, and I was really blown away by it. I felt like it was a very spiritual experience for me. Practically, it was amazing because it really got me totally off nicotine again. And it got me, I had no desire to really turn to any of the things that are unhealthy, like scrolling or having a glass of wine. Like I felt like I really just wanted to do healthy things for myself after I started doing the ketamine. And so this is it's not like an hour-long session where I'm basically I'm given a dose of ketamine through a muscle in my arm. I don't know how and why it works like this, but you just kind of go on a journey in your brain. It's very visual and it's very emotional. Like there's a lot of tears, and I don't really know why, but it's supposed to be a very heart-opening experience, and that's what I felt like. I felt like it was a remembering that everything's okay, and that everything that happens in your life is for a reason. And even the things that you can't make sense of, like horrible things that happen in the world that can really get you down, that I feel very deeply. And I think most people do. Like it's hard not to see some of the atrocities that's happening in the world and be like, oh my God, what is going on? But ketamine helped me to feel like there's a bigger picture. I don't need to understand it, but I'm a part of it, and like all is good. So I feel like just that alone, I got my money's worth because it's a little pricey. But so after the ketamine, I was like, I love this. This is amazing. I didn't feel like I needed to do any more, which is, I think, a concern for some people because ketamine can be addictive. It works on the part of your brain that opiates work on. So if you have a propensity towards opioid addiction, which I do not, then you should not do ketamine. So I was really happy about my experience with ketamine. I felt like my heart was really open, and I felt like I had pressed the reset button on some of these patterns in my life, like the wrong men that I was attracting and just falling into like patterns of addiction specifically with nicotine. So then my friend texts me and is like, do you want to go on this yoga retreat with me? And I was like, yes. It was in Costa Rica. I've been to Costa Rica before. It's one of the most biodiverse places in the world. I feel like it's such a good place if you want to open your heart and get back in touch with nature. And I love yoga. And so I was like, yes, absolutely. And then she was like, okay, and actually my friend owns this retreat center really close to where the yoga retreat is, and she does plant medicine ceremonies there. And I was like, okay, I'm open, because ketamine's not technically a plant, but it's in that world. It's like a synthetic version of plant medicine. So I was like, okay, what are we doing? She's like, peyote. So I had never heard of peyote experiences before. I'm a little bit of an adventurist, so I was open to it because one of the things that I did hear was that it's a very heart-opening medicine, that it makes you feel more connected. Kind of like the things I was hearing were very similar to the things I had heard about ketamine, which I had such a great experience with. And also, I don't know if you guys remembered or if you listened to this episode, but I did an episode with Danny Morell, and his whole shtick was like, he has a podcast with his wife called Finding the One, and finding the one is actually finding yourself. Although it sounds like it is a podcast on partnership, but that's kind of the irony of it. And his whole thing was that, like, after he had done a series of plant medicine, he had essentially hit the reset on his brain and life and got more in line with what he really should be manifesting in his life. And that's when he met his wife. So that's always been in the back of my head where I'm like, okay, maybe I should do the plant medicine and see if that's, helpful in my life. So I'm going to give you just a little preview. The peyote was not as profound of an experience for me as the ketamine. I felt like so we rolled up to this retreat center. The peyote journey was actually a 2-night thing. We only opted to do 1 night. The ceremony starts at 5 p.m. and ends at like 8 a.m. Okay, so that's all the night long. And you go there, and there's these shamans. And I guess every peyote ceremony, wherever it is in the world, these shamans have a very specific sequence of events and songs in order for their ceremony that remains the same every time. I'm not mature enough for this. Like, we couldn't stop laughing, first of all, me and Laura. And then, of course, everybody's looking at us like we're so rude and, who are these like mean girls here? So we were trying not to laugh so that everybody could see us, but it was really funny. Like, first, there's a peyote dance that everybody knows somehow. The shaman starts singing, or it's kind of like a chant. And it's in this old language of, I don't know, whatever indigenous tribe peyote started in. But it was not a language we understood. So no idea what these guys are saying. But they're like, hana, 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 hama, haba, haba, hala, ba, ba, da, ba, da, ba, da, on and on, but like saying the same thing over and over. So like, it was definitely provoking emotion. It was like rage. We were like, stop. Like, when is he going to stop singing the same thing over and over again? It felt like it went on forever. So we were getting frustrated with that. And so I was like, I need more drugs if I'm going to be here all night long. So you're allowed to go up and get like more peyote whenever you want. It's basically, it tastes like, it's a cactus that's been dried out into a powder, and then they mix it with water. It tastes like dirt that like has not fully dissolved into water. So you're like kind of like crunchy, stuck in your teeth. Does not taste good. Tastes kind of like there's like a little bit of poison in it. Like, so you just take it like a shot. One of the other things we didn't realize is that peyote is a cactus, and even if you ingest it, it has the qualities of a cactus where it is energized and kind of activated by the sun. So we were throwing back these shots in the dead of night, not realizing that when the sun came up at 8 a.m., we were in for a rude awakening because that's when it all hit us. And we were not expecting that. Nobody told us that. So all night long, it's like they do these chants, and then all of the people sitting around, there's a big fire. It's all centered around this fire. It's actually started raining right in the beginning of the ceremony. It took like 2 hours of them thanking all of our grandfather ancestors who came before us of the people's land that we were on, and the First Nation of indigenous, on and on. Like, we thanked everybody who's ever come before us. We thanked all the elements of the earth. We thanked all the spirits and goddesses of our forefathers, and that took about 3 hours. Then they gave us the medicine, and I didn't really feel anything because of probably it not being activated until the sun comes up. It didn't really seem like anybody else was nobody was whacked out of their mind. Nobody was vomiting. There wasn't any purging. I think that was a lot of the feedback I got when I said I was going to go do plant medicine. People assumed I was going to do ayahuasca, and there's a lot of physical purging with ayahuasca. To be honest, I feel like I almost would have preferred that because at least I would have known it was working. This, I was just kind of we were laughing so hard. So I feel in retrospect, I'm okay, we were so giggly. It must have been working. But how could you not laugh? There's a very specific peyote ceremony dance, and it's not pretty, and everybody knows it, and we didn't know it. But then, towards the end of the night, we were just okay, we need to just start participating in this round the circle dance because it just felt like that was the thing to do at the end. I think that's how they get you, because we were there for literally 12 hours. But there was a lot of singing. There was a lot of people kind of just having these callings and speaking out all the children of the world deserve clean water, and I call on the spirits of the great ocean and blah. And I was just yeah, it sounds great. I don't really know what's going on here, but I second that, whatever she said. And then a lot of people with guitars, a lot of singing, a lot of yeah, I'm woo-woo, but they got to give me more drugs for that type of thing. So that was my experience with peyote. Oh yeah, the sun came up, and then all of a sudden I started getting really nauseous. Things were starting to shift. It kind of felt like I took mushrooms and smoked weed, which I don't really like weed, and I don't really like mushrooms either. I like maybe a microdose, but I'm not one who likes to be out of my mind. If you know me at all from my experience, what I told you about my addictions and stuff, I like an Adderall, I like the nicotine, I like things that make me more on top of it, not checked out, and I don't like to be out of my mind. So I don't know why I thought I was going to like this. And ketamine, yes, it's just such a different experience because you're with a doctor and a therapist, and it's it's a therapy. I'm being guided by somebody. It's not it just felt kind of eerie to be on this medicine with a bunch of strangers whose behaviors were pretty odd. One woman just got butt naked and started standing in front of the sun and going like this. And she was a energy worker, and she could feel energy. And I believe her. I think she probably can. But she just kept doing all these weird arm movements throughout the whole night. There was a lot of people who were just such a spectacle. You look at them and I don't know what they were doing. There was a lot of dancing, but also convulsing, and a lot of hugging, a lot of eye gazing between people. So no judgment. There was actually children there too. There was a couple sets of kids. People brought their kids. Some kids took a little bit of the peyote. Most of them didn't. Most of them fell asleep. But I don't know. These parents and these are really kind, sweet, nice people. I would never say these parents are negligent. Their kids also seem super well adjusted and really nice kids. it's just such an odd way to be brought up. And I do wonder about what the message is that taking something will make you more open and better or like enhance life in some way. Like maybe that actually helps prevent like drug use because it takes away that like the taboo of it. I don't know, kind of like how in Europe they give kids alcohol when they're so young and there's a lot less problems with alcohol as they get older. But that's a whole other issue. But anyway, the sun came up. I didn't like the feeling of it. It took like probably a full 24 hours to feel normal again. And then I felt like my serotonin was a little depleted. So there was like a full day of kind of coming back up from that. All in all, not an experience I feel like I ever need to do again. And I'm happy I tried it. It was fun. Now, during this time, right before I had gone on the trip, my good friend Laura, who's also single, and she and I are super similar. She's who I went on the retreat with. She said to me, Aurora, you need to get off of Raya and you need to go on a dating app that's for just normal people, she said. I don't really know what that means. Not everybody on Raya is famous. I'm not famous and I'm on Raya. And there's a lot of people who, I mean, she's on Raya and she's a teacher. But anyway, like, I think Raya has this connotation of thinking that you're special in some way. And she's like, you need to get off that and go on something else. So I went on a different app and I ended up matching with this guy who I quickly started talking to on text. And we continued to talk all throughout the time I was in Costa Rica. And then when I came back from Costa Rica, he was gone on a trip. So we ended up talking for like 3 weeks without actually meeting each other or seeing each other. And then we met when I came home and we totally hit it off. And I have such a crush on this guy. And he's so sweet and just all the things that I really feel like I manifested him after my ketamine experience because I feel like I reset I feel like I continually attract people who are emotionally unavailable. Because I probably was a little emotionally unavailable, probably not totally ready to even be vulnerable and seen in a real way. And so I think the ketamine helped me to kind of like open my heart a little bit and be more and attract more of something real. And I feel like I've done that. So I'm super excited. I'm like in a great place. We just spent the weekend in Palm Springs. However, now I'm like, okay, I need to do some work because I'm having big emotions around the fact that he got out of a very long relationship not that long ago. And he has nothing but love for this person, which is great. I mean, it's more of a green flag when somebody has only nice things to say about their ex. But now I'm kind of grappling with these existential questions of like, how does one not be bothered and not let it get in the way of like forming a true connection? How does somebody not be bothered by someone's ex, by the relationship that somebody had with their ex, especially when that ex is still sort of a part of their life in some way, whether or not they have kids or maybe they share a dog or property or like just the fact that the person you're dating, their camera roll has 9,000 pictures of this person because they've spent the last decade with them. You know, logically, it makes sense that everybody has a past and you want somebody who has experience with a past. It's probably more of a red flag also when somebody's never had a long-term relationship. But it's hard not to compare yourself to other people. It's hard not to make up stories in your mind. And especially with social media, just we can take one picture and make up all different stories about it. So the things that I'm currently trying to do to not let that take up any space in my brain is just reminding myself, like, what do I know to be true? Which is right now, he's not with her. And right now, we are having a great relationship that is obviously completely unique because no two people's relationship can ever be like anybody else's. And I think also just remembering that it's so interesting, like I'm that person for somebody else. Like I'm thinking girls who might have a crush on my ex-husband probably look at us and are like, and that like I'm the phantom enemy, you know? So like everybody has phantom enemies in the ex of their current love interest, which is so stupid because she's probably a very sweet girl. It does add another element, I think, like who ended the relationship. Like if you're dating somebody who was broken up with by someone else, do you think you can actually move on and move on with no strings attached and not feel like that was the person that got away? It's hard. It's very confusing. The other thing that happened that was so odd, we were in Palm Springs on a little trip together, which we had such a good time. We went out to dinner and his face kind of goes like sheet white. And I was like, what's up? What are you thinking? He's like, okay, I'm going to be real with you right now. The girl I've been dating for the last 3 months, who like I just ended things with, just walked in and she saw me or whatever. And I was like, and I didn't know he had been dating somebody for the last 3 months. So that I just had to process that for a minute. And then of course me with my big mouth and all my questions, I ask all these questions. And then when I get the answers, I'm like, I don't want the answers. I don't want that in my brain. But I'm like, oh, well, why did you break up with her? He was like, I don't know. She was the first person I dated after my like 10-year relationship. And I just told her I wasn't really ready for something. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, well, you're not really ready for something. And there was a lot there. And that's when I had those big emotions. And I was like, okay, he's not with her because he doesn't want to be with her. You can't be upset about somebody's ex-relationships. It's not logical. And I think that's a practice that all of us can have, like whether or not you're in a relationship or you're still dating or whatever. We just need to remember, what do we know to be true? Like, what are the actual facts, not the ones we've made up, not the ones that we've come up with some kind of fantasy about, but what do we actually know to be true? And I think also just like allowing yourself to feel the feelings and not feeling, don't be too judgy with yourself about it. But also don't project it onto the other person. Because there I was like eating sushi, like mad at him about the relationship he had before he knew me, which doesn't make any sense. So just have a lot of feelings going on, but I'm so excited. He's so cute. It's a different kind of crush. Like, I feel like the other guys I've dated this year, I'm like, okay, he's really successful. He's a great job. He's so good to me, that sort of thing. But this guy is like, I just want to eat him. You know, you just want to like smell somebody and just like snuggle them. You just like want to like take their t-shirt and like sleep with it at night. That's the kind of crush I have, which is just the most fun crush to have. Getting really hot in here. So I'm going to try not to be a psycho jelly biatch. That would really suck if I screwed it up by doing any of that stuff. So I'm going to be good. And you will find out, obviously, if things escalate or... I mean, I'm very confident. I'm putting only positive energy out there. I also want to be very careful of my language because I feel like that's a thing. I'd want to just speak positivity into it. And I'm trying not to tell people who I think might put ideas in my head about like, oh yeah, he's probably not ready, or who might just like feed the fear. There's no reason for anybody to know who's going to feed the fear. I trust all of you guys out there that you're only going to put good vibes out there for me because I know you're my girlies. And couple boys out there, probably Jackson and Sean. You guys are going to think I'm ridiculous, but I'm trying to be a little bit more thoughtful about the way I go about this dating experience. I want to be light about it and prioritize having a good time and not trying to make it something or have it be a title or have too many expectations or attachments to it. I started listening to this dating coach. She's a dating, relationship, and marriage coach. Her name's Adrienne Everhart, and she really believes that until you have a ring on your finger, you should be dating multiple people. And her reason behind this is so that, one, so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket and kind of, wasting your time. Could end up being a waste of time. And two, so that you're not using all of your energy and focus on one person. I think that might be a good option, especially for us girlies or boys who tend to get kind of laser focused and, dare I say, obsessive. I know I talk about ADHD type only because like I'm using myself as an example, but one of my main ADHD symptoms is I can get really hyper focused on things where I let, the balance in my life can become very quickly uneven. So I think for me, it probably is a good idea to just remain open and not call somebody my boyfriend too soon, not be only focused on one person. Of course, I'm not going to sleep with multiple people at once, only because that doesn't work for me. I get way too emotionally attached to somebody if I sleep with them. And also because I don't want to get, I don't want to be dirty and all that stuff. I don't want to pick up anything along the way. But I'm keeping my energy open, but I'm just very optimistic and excited about this new prospect. And I'm going to just take my big feelings about past relationships and remind myself that it's not helpful and it is very natural feeling, but also the things that I'm coming up with in my brain are not based in reality. They're not accurate, and therefore I have to tell my brain, thank you so much, but that's not helpful. And then just try to move on. And don't put yourself in situations where you're unnecessarily provoking yourself, like looking at somebody on Instagram or going through someone's phone or asking questions that, like, do you really want the answer to it? Probably not. I do that all the time, where I'm like so curious, asking questions. And then when I get the answer, I'm like, ew, I don't want that. Like, try again. That was not the answer I wanted. Which also is not fair. So anyway, in the next coming episodes, we're going to dive into relationships. We're going to dive into sex. I have some great experts coming on how you can spice up your sex life, how to keep things spicy. I want to talk about attachment styles. I want to talk about relationships and the psychology of just being in relationship, human emotions. I'm going to be using myself and my dating experience as it progresses and getting on some experts to give us some real science behind it. And I hope you guys will follow along through my journey as I use myself as a guinea pig, and I remain open and vulnerable with you. And we'll see about this new situation. I'm excited about it, but not going to be too attached, but I'm going to try to learn everything I can learn from it and have a lot of fun.